Hi guys, my name is Sido, and today we're going to be talking about mobile first indexing. One of our guests is late, so whenever he turns up, he will just join us. So let's start by introducing my panel. Let's start from left to right. Unfortunately, we only have one microphone, so.
Hi, I'm James Rowland. I'm the search lead for Thomson Reuters, Financial and Risk. I take care of global SEO for our business, global paid media, and any other online advertising.
Hello everyone, my name is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. I'm a freelance online marketing consultant, and I'm also director of Search London. We have events every 6 to 8 weeks, and actually we're having one in September, just before Brighton SEO. It will be in London. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Fili. I used to be a Google engineer. Now I'm not anymore. On the other hand, now I'm an SEO expert, so I help people with their SEO, in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you. So the rules are, I'm going to ask my panel some questions, but don't be shy. Ask any question you want, just don't be shy, By the way, we're here all day, so you can always ask us later. But, so let's start with my first question. So guys, do you see the main challenge of mobile first as predominantly technical or creative or both? Let me start with you, because you're probably the most technical person in this room.
I don't know if I'm the most technical person, because I don't know the audience. I know these two guys, they're good too. In a nutshell, from my perspective, it's mostly a technical one. Creative, and I think I'm kind of preempting now already a little bit, but from a creative point of view, your content needs to be accessible, needs to be digestible, no matter which device it is. So from that perspective, I don't see mobile first as a creative issue. From a technical issue, we need to make sure that we have desktop mobile parity. That means that we need to send the same signals that we're sending on desktop to on our mobile website as well. And I'm talking here about, do you have your canonical on your mobile site if you have a separate mobile site? Do you have structured data there? This is mostly technical. Your port view, how big is your port view? What is above the fold? Where do you have your content? This is, for me, is that the technical approach. Joe, you want to?
Yes, thank you. I think it's a mixture of both, really, but also maybe a change of mindset. Ami was talking about technical SEO in the previous session, and really I think people need to put this around the mobile first, not just under the SEO team, but as the organization. Because people are using content in a slightly different way. So for example, if you're on mobile, you'll be using, people like video more. I've also looked into different research around what are people using when they're on mobile. They want to be able to have click to call. They want to be able to have a link on the address so that it opens up Google Maps. Apparently 75% of people just use the one finger when they're sort of navigating. So that would impact your design as well. And of course, you need to have minimized images, but images where you can also expand and contrast with the flick of your finger. So that impacts the designers, but also the technical aspects as well.
Again, I'm going to say both. When you look at responsive is quick, but it's not the quickest you can have as a design. More and more people are taking on adaptive builds on mobile sites, which is adapting it to responsiveness, but also building in for a special smaller device, which means when you go adaptive, you can actually load as much content as you want, whereas responsive is actually all the content on the page, unless you put blockers in. Also then on the creativity side, look, I work for a multi-billion-dollar company, and there are business thought leaders who write content all the time. And they write the content the way they want to. And when it comes to me and my team, We have to specialize it to make it SEO friendly and go beyond. To change the mindset of these people into shorter form content for mobile first would take a lot of effort.
Good. So staying technical, guys, do you think that, because a lot of people are also asking me this question on LinkedIn, do separate mobile sites have future? Or shall we all go for responsive?
So on that about, should we have separate mobile sites or can we all go responsive? Well, actually, John Mueller clarified that in a post earlier this year in May, where he said actually it's confusing to have an M. site and also a responsive site. So you need to clean that up. Otherwise, it's too confusing for the search engines, the algorithms, and it'll be therefore difficult to rank.
So when we're talking about M. we're basically talking about historic reasons to have a separate mobile optimized website. Dynamic surfing is kind of similar to it. It's just based on user string, agent string instead of a URL path. But we're basically serving up different content. The problem with M. is that a lot of sites that are historically built as M. Tend to have a completely different site structure. Different code base behind it, not just on the front end, but also on the back end. The URL structure tends to be different. And because of that, it becomes very hard to map those in occasion to the actual desktop variation. I've seen situations where M. is a search engine of a catalog of an e-commerce website, where the desktop version is a normal website with like a normal hierarchy, category pages, etc. The M. didn't have that. And that was more like you type in what you need and you get what you need. And because of that, there was no correlation, which meant that these websites can't be canonized, and as a result, you have basically two separate websites with the same content. So these issues tend to come up when you have a separate website. M. is really historical. We need to move away from M. Now, he already mentioned adaptive design. I would say progressive enhancement. That's one of the things we need to go towards way more. I think that is more the future. Has been, by the way, for a long time. Progressive enhancement came up in 2003. Google has been recommending it on their blog since 2007. 2009, Google came with the JavaScript rendering alternative, and then which they stopped again. And still, they promote progressive enhancement. Now, progressive enhancement, we're literally talking about having a basic experience that is accessible on any device. Any device. So that means that if you have a booking website, that you can make a booking no matter which device you have. That you can access the basic content and the basic functionality of that website no matter what your device is. If it's a mobile, if it's a wearable, if it's your fridge. Because that's another thing. Like a few years ago, I was in like one of these big stores where they sell fridges and all the other things. And I saw fridges with computers, like big screens on them. You can actually order stuff there. And and we're not even talking about the Internet of Things, where we need to have this basic functionality always accessible, not dependent on the device, on the browser, on the screen size, etc. And if you develop according to that, then you can just have one website. And then responsive web design is one way to say, like, okay, let's make sure that we only use the rules that we need using progressive enhancement, and then basically have one URL, all the content there.
Wow.
I could talk more about another part, by the way. I'll just add one comment. Sorry, I just popped in my head while you say one. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, by the way, right now when it comes to mobile. Because the whole M. Like, I'm hoping that most of you here, who has an M. By the way? Who's still, like, it's fine, like, you can put your hand up. Yeah, okay.
Don't be shy.
Exactly, don't be shy. Because that means you can learn from this, so that's good, yeah, so this is good. But who has an AMP site? Yeah, there's a few more. The problem is we're doing the same now again. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're creating that separate site again with AMP. This is not what the direction we should be going. AMP is in a way a monkey patch, yeah, because it's not solving the problem, it's going around the problem and doubling our code base again. And this is something that we need to keep in mind. Like the whole reason why we get rid of the AMP dot, we're now reintroducing with AMP. Just saying that.
Thanks. I was talking about AMP this morning. Our last guest has arrived, so please introduce yourself.
Alright, apologies. I thought we were like running 20 minutes behind schedule, but apparently you caught up with the time, so that's my fault. Okay, so yeah, my name's Colin Woon. I'm from William. Well, I'm currently working at William Hill based in London, and so this is where I live as well. It's just a quick introduction. I've been in the industry for maybe 10, 12 years, something like that. Originally started with BBC, then moving over to SEO maybe like 3 years or something into my career, and always on agency, and on agency side maybe for like 7 years out of that time, or 6, and then more recently moving into client side roles. So in a nutshell, that's me. I'm global head of SEO for William Hill, and I think we ran a team of like 17, 15 or something across different regions.
Any thoughts on a separate mobile site?
So was that the second question that was around the M.dot thing?
Yes, yeah. Okay,
so do you know, like, so for me, it's very much, and it would be good if I kind of understood the audience here, which unfortunately I don't really understand right now, but understanding your expertise, what you know, because, you know, if we were like in a room with like a bunch of technical SEOs, then, you know, we could go down that route, and I could say, like, let's just go forward and let's do these new exciting things. But if that's not the case, and there's like head of digital marketing specialist here, or even just marketing specialist here, like explaining to you that you need to do a progressive web app is just beyond, you know, it's beyond, it's unlikely that's actually something you're going to be able to do. Like when I worked at O2, even trying to get an AMP page live was like getting blood out of stone, because the business is like, okay, Colin, do you realize that these AMP pages, when you land on it, if you swipe left or swipe right, you're going to land on a complete different website? Like someone just left our site. Like, how do you fix that? And say, oh, but it drives traffic. It's like, Colin, we don't really want to drive traffic. I want something that will convert. Like, tell me how AMP is going to make me more sales. You know. So these are the kind of things you need to think about. Like, what is your business like? I think it's probably a bit more relevant to another question, but it's like, what is more relevant to your business now? What can you what's going to make your business successful? You know, is it a case that you're fine just driving traffic and having rankings? Yeah, cool. Or is it a case that actually sales are so important? Like at William Hill, it's you know, where, I mean, I'm not a gambler, so it's kind of funny that I work there, but you know, it's I've been trying to just work in different places just to see how SEO works in different universes, but at William Hill, it's like, Colin, we need to do first deposits. Like, we need people to land on our site and register, like just register and make a deposit. Like, how are we going to do that? Like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's like, no, show me the business plan where this works, and then we'll do it, you know? And explaining things that way, suddenly new technologies kind of have to sit on the back burner. It's like, what actually works? And just on the M.docs, I know we've got loads of questions here. You know, and sorry, that's a bit weird. Yeah, I have to hold it really still. Okay, so with M.dot, you know, that is super old. It reminds me even of websites, and this stuff is old technology. Now, the lady over there who has a site, like, I'll tell you a quick little story. So, William Hill, obviously gambling company, I'm not really telling you to bet or anything, so I don't think I'm trying to sell something into you. But Bet365 is like number one in this little competitive set. And number 2/3 is between Sky Bet and William Hill. I think right now Sky Bet is above William Hill. Hopefully I can fix that, but this is like a whole marketing thing, not just SEO. Now, Sky Bet, if any of you just Google Sky Bet right now, you're going to see something really weird, which is, well, sorry, not right now, on your desktop. If you do it on your desktop, you'll see that actually all Sky Bet's pages are M.Sky Bet, all of them. And they have great rankings, and it's really annoying and really weird. And actually, I haven't really investigated it fully, you know, because, you know, it's super busy and stuff. But their M.dot site is outranking our mobile site, our responsive site, and many others as well. So, sorry, not our responsive site, competitive responsive sites, but it's performing really well, you know. And it's very much down to, okay, like, what do you have right now, and can you improve it? without making wholesale changes. You know, like focus on what you can do with your site. Don't just give up and think, fuck, it's finished. Sorry, excuse my language. Don't just think, oh, it's finished, it's over. Like my site's done. I need to move this new technology tomorrow because it's not realistic. You know, if you're a startup, perfect. Like at Barclays. My previous role, there's so many startups, I can't think of the name right now, I'm under pressure, but so many startups, and they are obviously launched, you know, they've got young teams, and they're like, okay, we're going to compete with Barclaycard, we're going to have this really cool tech, where they find a really wicked developer, and the developer brings out some tool, and then they launch this site, and everyone in Barclays is like, what is this? Like, Colin, what is this? And they say, this is a technology I told you about like months ago. But you said there's no budget to do something experimental like this. You said this was transformation and SEO is like number 6 in the queue. And they said, oh yeah, cool. So how can you fix our site without making those changes? You know, so this is kind of what you need to look at. I think one of the later questions is like looking into the future and how can you be prepared, you know? And we may not have time for this to go through, so I'll just say it now. Like one way to be prepared is that you look at business cases where you can build something. I'm looking at you because you have the question, but it's surprise to everybody. You look at business cases where you can start a project. You can say, okay, for example, AMP, if that's brand new to you. You say, okay, right, I want to do a separate project that doesn't have the same KPIs and it doesn't cover the whole website and it's just a small piece. And I'm going to do a couple of AMP pages and see how they perform and monitor it, and then we'll go back and we'll review. Not a whole scale thing. You can do that with progressive web apps too. You could try something. That is how you prepare yourself, because then you're testing these hypotheses, these projects, these tools, these technologies without directly impacting your business. Because if you're in a big business, you know it's not possible. You just cannot just say I need to make this change because I read it in an SEO blog. And if you look at Skybet, they're performing with these old technologies. So just focus on what is going to help your business today, and then things that will help your business tomorrow. Plan that as a separate piece, and then when you prove your case, roll it out.
Well, it was a bit late, but so because Colin already mentioned it, how do brands actually prepare for this mobile first index? Because everywhere on the internet, people are just saying, Google as well. You're not Google. I just looked at it. But people just say, if you've got a responsive website, that's it. You're done. You're ready. Is this actually true?
I believe that's just the first step. Obviously, the step after that, Fili's already touched upon it, was debate, obviously, the AMP, but the next, which is advanced mobile pages, and then PWA. I've seen a lot of the news sites, they are using AMP, but really, and how can brands, back to your question was, how can brands prepare for this mobile first? I think it's also, going back to the question earlier, is about having a different mindset. So thinking about putting your users first, making sure that they're the center of your content strategy, technical strategy, because many people still put that separate, and obviously many people put SEO in a separate. So overall, it needs to be at the forefront of consumers of your marketing strategy. And one example of that would be when you're going mobile first, you need to make sure that the website is there for the user. So for example, when I mentioned about the people using the phones, using their thumbs, 75% of people using their thumbs, you need to make sure that it's very accessible. So actually Google and Research Labs, they conducted a survey of what are people looking to do for websites. And one of them is the navigation. So you need to make sure that you have a good navigation within your website, so it's easy to access different areas. So what does that mean? It means you don't put on your website, learn more for a button, it's an actual action. You also don't mention that you also don't mean that you have big pop-ups of the whole website, covering up the whole screen. And there's different people thinking of different things we should do for being mobile first. For example, Neil Patel says you shouldn't actually have the whole top navigation because it's prime retail space or prime mobile space. So when you use things like forms, if you want to have people that are already registered with your site, It needs to be pre-populated. So this is all going back to putting the user at the center when you're doing your mobile strategy. And I think your mobile first, and I think also you need to go back even further and think, well, what are our KPIs? What are we looking to achieve? There's a lot of good websites out there that have put their consumers at the forefront, and that's because they have thought about that in great detail.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, sorry. I'll keep it short so you can also. Just to continue on that one, from a mobile first perspective, or actually to take a step back from a website perspective, you do need to ask yourself, what's the purpose of your website? What is your unique sales proposition? Why are you, why is your website better than that of the competitor or the other 9 search results, so to say? Yeah, I think that is fundamental to every business that has a website. Actually, it's fundamental to any business. That's a higher level. If you don't know what sets you apart from the other competitors, you already have a problem. And that's not an SEO problem. Yeah, that's a higher level business problem. You need to have a unique sales proposition on each individual URL that you want to make indexable and serve as a search result. Now, from a mobile perspective, that means also a good user experience, UX. I see on the technical, not creative. Creative, I see content. Yeah, and yes, you have content in different formats like video, etc. Keep in mind that although people like to watch videos, the videos, they may not have the bandwidth for it. It really depends where they are. From a content perspective, that means textual in a large portion of the web. That needs to be easy parsable. Then we're talking page speed, like how quickly does it render? Which fonts do we need? We go very quickly to technical to deliver that. And from a technical point of view, that's the mobile first indexing. Now, a lot of people think, okay, mobile first indexing, does that mean a new index? No, it's the same index. It's the exact same index. The only difference is that Google now uses algorithms that are more focused on mobile signals than on desktop signals to rank the content. In other words, is the content mobile friendly? Will it be a good user experience to go to the website on a mobile device? That's the mobile first indexing part. It's not the actual new index kind of thing, it's just the approach how to look at that same index. And that's something that you need to keep in mind.
So first off, I want to ask, how many people here have the majority of their traffic is coming from mobile? Quite a lot. And then how many say desktop still is their first priority? Right. In my world, it's the B2B world. I've come from the B2C world. I did 6 years SEO B2C, and I could see the shift in mobile. Now in B2B, we still get millions of hits every month. We're as big as any other website. We go out in the same SEO manner, but we have 16% mobile hits. So we're not actually thinking about mobile first. We're thinking about innovations in the future. The people we are trying to target are actually more into wearable technology than into mobile. Because they're sitting in their office, they are not able to go on their mobile phones. If we're talking about who we aim at CEOs and top level managers, they are constantly on the move. They're shifting their devices to their secretaries. They do wear devices for top updates or looking for that specific information themselves. So we run everything. Our mobile first strategy is the responsive strategy, which is what everyone here does in essence. To shift to mobile first is really difficult. It requires, it depends on industry, purely on industry. I find it quite weird that Google push mobile first to us and everyone speaks about mobile first when we can see 50% of the room here are not mobile first. We do really have to think about our experience and customer experience. Do we build, on your point actually, where you said you're primarily lead gen, we're primarily lead gen as well. But do we use subdomains? Do we use subfolders, not subfolders actually, subdomains? Do we use AMP for the mobile experience and continue with our desktop first experience as well? or run two side by side and have two teams, which would be a bigger innovation and a lot more disrupting than just sticking to one or the other.
So it's an interesting point you make actually, because in my last role at Barclaycard, it was also a B2B role, and you know, trying to, so at Barclaycard, the product that we were selling was what's it called? Oh gosh, it's terrible. I don't remember, isn't it? Basically, the system that the large company will use to accept payments, it's got this weird funky name that I used to do, I know completely off the back of my head. But if you imagine these people, the business was saying, okay, like Colin, we need to make more sales through organic search, but the decision makers, they don't go onto Google. Like they have salespeople, and most of the sales come through sales. You don't have one person deciding what mobile phone to get for the whole of Sainsbury's, all their staff, by going to Google. Definitely not on their mobile phones. Another thing to look at is also, so just, is there any B2B people here? Okay, the majority of your conversions, what would you say the percentage is? Is it similar to here, like 16% or less on mobile? Yeah, it's tiny, you know. And then even if you go B2C at what do you call it? Sorry, where did I work? O2. Even at O2, traffic would be going this way. Like, yeah, loads of traffic on mobile, but conversions are still on desktop majorly, because to take out a contract phone with O2, you have the longest application form ever. You know, you have to sign this, you have to check this, you have to check that. It's a complete separate contract for your phone than it is for your airtime. I sound like a salesperson now. I don't work there anymore. But you know, this kind of stuff people don't do on their phones. The question is, again, onto my other point, is like, where are you making your sales? And you find out where you're making your sales, and you're like, okay, that doesn't mean that you say, okay, forget mobile, because mobile, you know, the minute of the term phablet came out, you know, and the iPhone X, which I haven't forget, which is really cool. It's like you can do more on your phone now, you know, and you've got the microphone computers that are like tablets. So like things are going that direction, but they're not quite on your wrist yet. Like you're not going to do any of this on your wrist, and you're not going to, you know, take out a contract with your Alexa either. Definitely not yet. So it's kind of like, okay, what's your content strategy for your mobile journey? Like every time I'm at, like, because I'm actually stealing space in our content team at William Hill now, because like I thought the SEO team has a much better understanding of how content should work in the digital world than the standard content team. Now, what I'm infusing into that team is letting them understand that actually, you know, it's simple user journey, like sales funnel, top of the funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel. Like, what are you saying to your customers along each of those stages, and what do you want them to find? And at which levels of those stages does mobile come in, you know? Research, top of the funnel, yeah, people on the tube between stops, potentially they're going to be looking at stuff, but they might not be the ones that convert. But if you don't target those people, maybe you need AMP for that, but only for that purpose. So it's really identifying, you know, understanding your customers, where they are, what they're doing, and what the purpose of the mobile journey is at each of those stages, and just rolling that out. Don't think that, yeah, because Google says we need to have only a mobile journey and be like Skybet, because it does look really weird when you look at the mobile version on a desktop. It's all like squished, and I mean, but for betting, you know, you only need to press odds and it's simple, but other areas it's maybe not practical. So yeah, just understand what it is your customers are needing at different times of their journey.
So, sorry, just a quick thing. So first of all, just one misconception I want to address. I don't know if you meant that, but just to it was raised, so I want to make sure. You don't need AMP for mobile indexing. Yeah, that's a separate thing. That's a separate experiment. It's a subset technology type of thing. It's not necessary for mobile indexing. Just to highlight that part. Second part as well is I do think mobile is extremely important, even for B2B, where the conversion is happening on desktop. Because how do you think they found you in the first place? Discovery happens mostly on mobile, or at least a lot. One of the other things that just signals that already is that Android OS, and we're not even talking about iPhone, just Android, has overtaken already Windows as the primary OS. And if we're still talking about the billions of people that need to come online, that aren't online right now, they're going to be online through mobile, not necessarily to desktop or laptop. So from that perspective, I think mobile is most definitely one of the primary ones that we need to optimize for, even with B2B, from an informational point of view. Now, the actual conversion may happen on the desktop or elsewhere, or even through the phone, like call us to get your custom order kind of thing, but they won't have the trust to call you if you can't convince them on mobile. Sharing, think WhatsApp or all those type of things, doesn't happen as much on desktop. Yes, you have a desktop interface of WhatsApp, but most people use it on their mobile, not on their desktop. You know, you need to be good for mobile. You want to say something on that too?
Yeah. No, all I just wanted to say was, you know, I've worked in many companies where it's difficult to be able to try and change the mentality. What I do is use the tools that you do have within your organization, and you have one with Google Analytics. You can see who is coming to your website on mobile. You can see who's coming onto your website on desktop. You can then drill down and see where people are converting. So, you know, without, I like this quote, like without data, you're just another opinion. If you can get that and look at and see that across the year, you can look at across seasonality as well, where people are coming from, then you can present that back to your organization, say, look, I think there's a big opportunity, what we can be doing with mobile, what we can be doing with even overall our content strategy, and from a technical point of view as well. But you need to see how it applies to your business. So look at your own data and then feed that back to your team.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, because at Canon, in the last few years, we've got more people coming through mobile, but then all the transactions are happening on desktop. Because let's be honest, nobody's going to spend 2,000, 3,000 pounds on an iPhone, you know, buying a massive camera. So anyway, and again, I just want to stress, to repeat something. AMP is not a replacement for responsive website, because indexing will be happening through the website, not AMP. Good, okay, we're not running out of time. So, because you already mentioned it, let me ask you this question. So, what should happen with the content strategy? If we do decide to go mobile first, what should happen with the content strategy? Shall we start thinking, let's think mobile and that's it, forget about desktop? Content.
Definitely not. You need to think about your overall, back to your KPIs, where do you want your customers to come from, where are they coming from, analyzing your results. But really, in terms of content, you want to be, that includes everything from the images, videos, the texts. You want to be able to see, again, within your analytics, where are people coming to, what's your top landing pages. If people in mobile are not seeing that, maybe your pages, for example, around the blog, are not easily accessible. So you need to be able to put the user back in the center, using, of course, your own data to see if you need to change things within your actual website itself. But have a look at some of the websites that are doing really well for this. There's John Lewis, you know, there's Argos, Amazon as well, or even online publishers like Huffington Post. See how they are putting mobile first in their strategy, and their websites or their mobile first strategy is reaping the benefits.
Yeah, why not?
Content, mobile.
Yeah, look, organization is key to any content marketing plan. We can create streams and streams of content, and we are the thought leaders of our brands in this room, and when we speak to people in our company. We create so much content that's out there. I don't think there has to be a fundamental shift into a mobile-first content strategy. What we have to look at is what we're trying to do here. So are we all SEO people here, or are we lead generators, or are we the final, the bottom line driving the revenue? Not everything has to be indexed. We don't have to put all our content out there to get great rankings. We've so much content built up throughout the years, unless you're a startup, but a startup can build up quite quickly their content as well. There's so much content out there, we don't always have to be focused on the journey straight from Google into that piece of content. There's content out there that should be behind walls, there's content that should not be indexed, and we should put our best foot forward. And if we're going down the mobile first strategy, then we get that short form of content straight into the mobile experience and create a customer user journey around your website to break into the rest of the content. And lead gen is not only for desktop, because lead gen is just filling in a form. So on a mobile device, it's quite easy to go with a form as well. It's probably gets tougher, as you say, when you're looking at a camera that's $2-3 grand and you want to think about it and look through your options, look through your bank account maybe as well, and then be safe, secure, and know that you're safe and secure on your own network at home, on your own laptop. So that's about it.
So Colin, if we do decide to go mobile first.
Okay, so 3 things I'll probably add to that. One, something about Google, something about competitors, and something about platforms. So the first thing would be, so do you need to do a content strategy for a mobile? Should it be different? Now, working in brands, like I'm in a digital team, and we've got the social team, we've got a display team, programmatic team, etc., yada yada. There's not one size fits all for everybody. Someone can't create a piece of content, stick it on a billboard, and then stick it on Snapchat, and then give it to me, my mobile customers, and then stick it on the homepage for everybody else. It's all different, right? Like you want different things depending on where you go. That's just a fact, I go to a hotel, I want a fancy bedroom. I go to my hotel, I don't care if it's completely messy. It's just different, right? So your mobile, without saying yes, build a separate mobile content strategy. It's just, again, going to the same old question, like what works better for your customers when they're out and about, is it the same? And what works better for your customers when they're sitting at their desk in front of their TV, in front of their massive widescreen monitor? Because computers and widescreen computers aren't going to be made obsolete. They're still going to be there. I work sometimes on my 60-inch TV and plug it in. So do I want to see something big or small? So it's different. So potentially yes, do things for whatever purpose. The second thing around competitors, so one thing that I always do, which I think most people probably do, but when I'm trying to decide what content to go on, what search query for what page, I have to then work out what Google is requiring is important for that page, for that type of keyword. At O2, there were certain pages that you'd only get to page 1 if you had a list of products, no content. And then other queries at William Hill, it's you only get to page 1 if you have no content and just a whole bunch of clickable buttons to different odds. I can't just create content, an article, an editorial piece, and think it'll work. So it's finding out exactly what works, what's currently ranking in Google on your mobile phone with your competitors on page 1. Is this different to what you thought you would have on your desktop? If yes, create something separately. If no, then it's fine. And the final piece, it's the same really. It's what are your competitors doing, and how can you make that better? So do you need to create something different? Do you need to approach your content differently? Because it's smaller real estate. You've got to have accordions. You've got to shrink things. And if you have a reactive site, then you're removing things that are on mobile because it's not relevant. It's completely fine because you're thinking about a user, right? So it's just those 3 things. Probably use something to.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm afraid we're running out of time. So. Thank you very much for coming here. We're going to be here all day, so ask us anything. Thank you.